Okay. Hello, everybody. I am your humble GM, Joshua MacGregor, and I am here for another episode of Roll Insight. First bits out of the way. Black Lives Matter, justice for Regis, Korchinski-Pacquet, and stay safe out there. COVID-19 is still a very big thing, and thank you to all the frontline workers. Let's get the gimmick out of the way right away to start with. So let's do a. The camera's not very good. The camera's a little blurry. Let's see if we can. That's a little bit better. I need a webcam very badly, but as soon as I knew I needed one, it was locked down, and they are gold dust now. So. Rolling Insight, I got a 13, and that's been pretty consistent. It's been like, what, 3 episodes of doing this? I've rolled a 13, a 14, and a 13. So you get adequate insight into the behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm here. I'm going to talk about episode 9 of God Heist, and there are a couple things that are kind of interesting that I wanted to talk about, including kind of getting thrown off balance, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a bit. But that and the idea of railroading or overwriting your show. I felt like it was a good time to really get into that kind of stuff, considering last episode. Now, I actually really liked last episode. It's a bit of a shorter one. Watching it back, there are some interesting things. There's Ryodon getting to interact with the Accord, which is something I didn't think was going to happen this season, but we got there early. There was What's-Its reaction to Thanos' death, which was huge. We had Tolton talking to Arayla Vast and discovering that Henua has taken credit for everything that they have done. The introduction, of course, of Ulden Mathravan, who is a very cool character, and that went really well. I really like his entire character, and everybody coming in with their animals and all of this stuff on the edge of the forest. So there's a lot that I really liked about the episode. But for me, playing it was a little bit awkward, and it was really hard to tell why. In the moment, I was having such a hard time focusing, improvising, whatever it was. I felt like I'd had a rough time of it that episode. I don't know if that is something that was apparent or not. Hopefully not, because as a performer, you never want to appear. You never want to appear like you're out of it. But I felt a little bit out of it. I kind of realized why. It's like we're not only are we a man down because Thano is gone. Everybody's feeling that in character and out of character. Morgan Hardy is no longer part of the stream as a major player character for the time being, which is a real shame. But of course, completely understandable. Not only were we down them, but we also were down Neil, and we didn't know that we were going to be down Neil for the entire episode, but we ended up being that way. And that, again, completely understandable, outside of our control stuff. It's what we get for doing this live as opposed to pre-recording it and editing it. Is you don't know who's going to be able to show up on the day. That's something we've had a lot of experience with. It's something I talked about last week, talking about outside of the game influences that you don't have any control over. So if you have a newborn boy who shows up in somebody's life and yeah, and it's the middle of a heat wave and he's having trouble going to sleep, then that's going to affect your game. And if somebody has outside, personal reasons for stepping away from the show, then they have personal reasons for stepping away from the show. Um, so during that episode, it was just a very different feeling. It really felt like, it's like, okay, the dynamic amongst everybody is different. We're introducing different characters. It's a little bit unclear where the story goes from here, which is clarified a little bit more this episode. And I think it's dealing with the fallout, right? It's dealing with the fallout of character events and outside of character events, and what happened last episode, which culminated in a pretty spectacular moment, was the death of Thanos, which was prescribed by him needing to get out of the show in real life. So you end up, I ended up writing a character death. And with the surgeon's character death, that was not planned per se. Even from the very beginning of that episode, it was possible, especially with what Nezumi was doing, that he escape and not go to prison. But what with the way that the world is set up, playing a tiefling in this setting is something that's very dangerous, very difficult. And so it was down to some dice rolls and some character choices what happened there, and then what happened with Thanos was much more prescriptive. And it seems to me that what has happened with the God Heist, this is me reflecting, is because we knew we were going to have a guest star in the form of Ralph Whiteley. Thank you so much, Ralph, for being on the show for episodes 6, 7, and 8. The story took a particular direction because we knew what character he wanted to play and the storyline that we wanted to go through with his character. And because because Nin knew she didn't want to play Nezumi, she wanted to play a Sai. We switched out that character because Morgan didn't want to, because Morgan had to step away, Thano had to die. And so there's been a lot of, let's write this into the show rather than improvise it during the stream, if that makes sense. So there's been a lot of quote unquote railroading this season. And I think we've got a pretty spectacular result from it. But one of the things that I felt was going on in episode 9 for me was I didn't quite know how to let go of the reins, and I almost felt like maybe my players didn't expect me to let go of the reins. It's it's an interesting thing, and you just got to live and learn. It's a human experience. And the other thing that threw me off balance was, for everybody out there watching, is I've been suffering pretty acute insomnia for a little while, which I'm working on. But it means that tomorrow is not an episode of God Heist. It is a one-shot instead, so that I can take a break and get my sleeping pattern sorted out, and then return the week after, or next week, so I can return next week and actually be okay being awake for a while. Yeah, sleep deprivation will do some weird stuff to you. So all this is to say, in terms of discussion with GMs and players who are out there, um, outside stuff is going to crop up. And even in a home, like even in one of my home games that I run, because I'm currently running a few, we started off with a few more players, and then a couple people dropped out for personal reasons. There have been days on Neil's game, which we referred to a couple of times during the show, uh, where more people have wanted to come in and play, and he's been, it's his game, and he's been happy to do that. And we've had like up to 8 players, all trying to figure out Roll20 together and trying to fight a um, crazy succubus, off a boat. And other days where we've gone down to fewer players. So the important thing is to make sure you're looking after yourself. And that's the case with everyone. Is everyone's priority isn't to the game or to the show as much as we love doing the show. Our priorities are to ourselves and to one another, and creating this piece of art and this improvised piece and having fun together is a wonderful thing that we enjoy doing very much. I enjoy doing immensely and can't wait to get back to. But you got to look after yourself. So there. Bum. The other thing I wanted to talk about as an extension of the feeling that the game has gone onto the rails somewhat because of all this stuff is the desire that I have. Obviously, I know what the story of the season is, and kind of have an idea of what season 2 will look like. But I want the players to feel like they are making impactful choices in the world, and that they are the driving forces of the story, which is the point of doing D&D and not writing a script. So the idea is that going back for episode 10, it'll be a lot more up to the players what the next moves are. And I've kind of started to detail. I have started to detail through the NPCs what kind of the options generally could be, whether that be, taking the fight straight toward Elkar, or finding out what's up with this weird forest beforehand, before going toward Elkar, or straight up trying to find Henua and kill Henua, and don't even worry about what Pelor is doing. And as is exemplified by the events which led them into Ward Elkar as prisoners, and by the choice of Alusfane to turn on the party. I will never know exactly what is going to happen, and that is the beautiful thing, and that is the thing that makes it such a joy to do. But I have wanted to open up this story more than I have done, because and I don't know that the result is bad by any stretch. But I found myself in episode 9 worrying a lot about making something for the audience and getting us to a specific place. And I think that is up to me to have that worry, but it would be a lot better to have a little bit of breathing room for everybody, I think. Just let the horse go a little bit more at its own pace and go where it will. and let me off the gas pedal, let go of the reins a little bit, as it were. So that's the idea. We'll see what happens when we come back in a week and a day to God Heist. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, there's some pretty cool stuff Hidden Realms wise going on, uh, as well as God Heist. So we'll talk a little bit about what it looks like our schedule is, because we've got, obviously, we tried to do a video on Wednesdays with character backstories um, and other kind of stuff. There's a few other things in the works. We've got God Heist. We're going to go till the end of season 1. I don't have a prescribed number of episodes, but I'm expecting at the rate we've been going through the story, um, barring the unexpected, I am expecting around a 16, 17 episode season. Now, what that means is, again, at the rate that people are going, the characters are what? Level 6? Pretty sure they're level 6. Yeah, they are. If I'm wrong about that. No, they're level 6. Commit, Josh, commit. They're level 6, and which means that they've grown 3 levels over the course of 9 episodes. And I think we're going to speed that up slightly. And so likely everyone will be around level 9 or 10 by the end of season 1. The kind of loose idea I have in my head is, unlike a campaign, season 1 will end before people get to level 20. And there will be more story to tell with these characters should the players want to bring these characters back for more. So there will be the season 1, there will be a season 2, which will probably take the characters from level 10 to level 15. I kind of have an idea of what that is. A little bit exploring more of Saigalia and where they're from originally, these characters, rather than Vulpikar. Again, all of this is prescriptive on this is if everyone dies in Vulpikar, then maybe that's not the place to take season 2, but we'll see. And then a third season with something else in it entirely that will take people from level 15 to 20. And at the rate we're cycling through characters, it might be an entirely different cast of characters by the time we get to season 3. But the reason I've structured this, the way that I've structured this, is to allow for breaks between the seasons to do other little bits and bobs. People have talked about, there are people, we talk a lot as a group about these different ideas that we have, and like people are throwing around all these crazy things like cowboys and superheroes and all these different ideas for settings and stories that we want to tell and play through. So it'll give us a chance to do some one-shots, which would be pretty cool. It'll give me a chance to not feel overwhelmed with the world building and the writing, which is always a good thing going in. And it allows, most importantly, it allows for people's changing situations when it comes to work, when it comes to moving house, all of this stuff. If we say, we're going to do a 16 episode season, we do the 16 episodes, we take a break for a couple of weeks, and everyone goes, oh man, what would really help if we switch dates, if we moved it from Friday to a different day, and we've moved our Friday game to replace where our Saturday game is, and moved our Saturday game to somewhere else, whatever it ended up being. It gives us room to talk about that, and it gives us room to say, you know what, maybe God Heist isn't the right um, show that we want to do. Like maybe we're not interested in continuing this story. This is spitballing. I like this story obviously, and I'm more than happy to continue it. But if people are, people go, this is dark, you know, this is knowing people's taste. That probably is not the way that things will go. But for example, if you and your group were, doing it this way, somebody says, this is kind of a dark setting and it's kind of on the rail, like it's kind of railroady. Josh, would you mind running a game that is more of a comedic sandbox? Comedic sandbox sounds awesome for a game, and seeing where that would go with a lot less of a firm direction for what the story is and like prescribing what it needs to be, and seeing what happens with a comedic sandbox story would be really interesting. And so it gives us a chance to talk about that and say, you know what, season 2 of Hidden Realms, it's not going to be called God Heist because God Heist is season 1, but like say season 2, we're doing this more like an anthology than an actual like progression of season to season, and we have different characters, or we have the same characters but they go to a world that's just full of silliness and non-lethality, or what have you. So always be willing to have and that's the other thing is we talked a little bit about party composition and how people not being there can change the balance as much as new people entering. Some stories are better for certain people than other stories. Some people are going to be more comfortable in different settings and different levels of stakes, both physically to like harm to their characters and emotional stuff with their characters. Let me go off the rails a little bit and talk a little bit about some of my home games, because I'm currently here's the amount of D&D that I've been playing, and this is probably why I'm burnt out and needing of sleep. But obviously there's God Heist on Fridays. Curse of Strahd started up on Saturday, which fingers crossed I'm going to be there for episode 2. I would like to be there for episode 2 because I had so much fun last week. On Tuesdays I was running a game with I am running a game with a couple of friends that is a very small play group that has very high. Forgive me, I've just got a text. I'm just going to see what the text says. Cool. And I run it, but yeah, it's a very small party, which means there's a lot of time that can be spent on the personal journeys of these two characters. So two player characters and me, the GM. And there is stuff that is going on in that one where I've got two very, very brave people who are able to and willing to go to pretty intense emotional places and deal with some moral dilemmas and difficult interpersonal dilemmas with their characters. There are things like doing in-character romances and stuff like that is not everybody's cup of tea, and that doesn't always work, and it's something that I'm attempting, and we are collectively attempting, and we have stuff like really emotional character deaths in that one, and complex political situations, people being asked to step out of their comfort zone in character. On the flip side, I have an ongoing game with my cousins um, who I kind of had like an idea that we were like the setting is Mad Max with magic, right? I kind of had this idea in my head that they would kind of be these heroes in the desert, and they'd be going around like Mad Max in Fury Road and stuff, like Furiosa, and helping good people to try to fix the things that were wrong with the world. And very early on, um, through gameplay and what have you, they basically said to me, they said, um, "No, we're all going to be chaotic evil, and we everything we do is for selfish reasons. Is we do for selfish reasons." And it's gloriously funny and so cool what these guys do with these weird characters. And so the vibe is very much like we do all kinds of movie references. People have goofy names. Everybody's evil. It's whether they can be the apex evil people in the world. And just yeah, it just crazy, lots of battles, not a lot of high stakes emotional stuff at all. Um, so sometimes I'll just say, "Hey, if like you make a choice whether you want something weird, like something bad to happen now, um, and I'll take the reins and make it weird, like a bad thing happen in this world right now if you guys want it to." And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. Um, But yeah, so the different styles of different games is completely fine, and the different numbers of players and what have you is completely fine. But it's just a matter of knowing who you're playing with, knowing what people want to play. And this is what I say, like if people are having fun, right? Then then you're playing a good game of D&D. Um, if every I've played with people who are like, I want to dungeon crawl. And I want to Tomb of Horrors, like, tap every single stone with a 10-foot pole to make sure that there are no traps and, you know, take down all the paintings and detect magic and identify everything that there is. And, I want instant death and all this stuff. And that would drive me mad. I could never, ever in a million years play that game, but people really enjoy playing that game, and a and if that game is happening and you are, like me, somebody who can't stand it, but everybody around you loves it, then I think it's just a matter of being able to say, "Maybe this isn't the game for me." And similarly, like on the other shoe, if you're somebody like me who likes to run very high stakes emotional games, um, or likes to play characters when he plays characters who um, have a lot of personality um, and really want to go for interpersonal character stuff, and the people around you are not as into that and not necessarily receptive to that. There's a disconnect, and it's just a matter of talking to people about what the disconnect is and whether somebody needs to shift what they're doing. Like, I have had to tone it down with what I'm doing with my character stuff sometimes. I've had that conversation. Um, and also having the conversation with people kind of going like, hey, we're all have this kind of social contract that this game is very personable and all the like, and if you're playing somebody who is not personable in a very down way. There are ways of playing antisocial characters in a way that is very social and fun with the people that you're playing with. But if you're playing somebody who's dour and just, no, I won't interact. Not I'm going to interact by like moving seats and getting even more drunk than I already am because I can't stand the company that I'm with, because that is interacting. That's your character interacting in a non-social way. If you're just like, no, I don't talk. I don't react. I don't do anything. That's a different kind of non-interaction with the people around the table. That tells me that you want to be playing a different game than you're playing. I have something to talk about. All of these reflections coming as I DM so many games. Right, I forgot to. So I DM God Heist before the fall, which is the small group. The game was called Mad Max with Magic. It's now called Wet Wranglers because that's what they decided to call themselves. It's the people who search for water in the desert. My cousins, baby. They're so much fun. I love them so much. Wet Wranglers. So I DM 3 games. And I play in the Wednesday game and the Curse of Strahd game. And it's really interesting. There's a lot to unpack about this hobby. As a whole. Really is. And whether, sometimes you go in blind and you come out with some of your, I went into the first session with Neil and all the guys who were playing in that game. Morgan was there. Some other people. Ralph was there. Blind. It was a meetup on Facebook and go to a cafe and play D&D. And now some of these guys are my favorite people, and I'm lucky to have them as my friends. A similar note, sometimes, you meet up with people, when I was living near London, I met up with some people for a couple of games. Not my crowd. This is the Tomb of Horrors type thing. I think it was either Tomb of Horrors or Tomb of Annihilation. And I do know what the difference is. I'm just, because I've played both in this context. Anyway, the playgroup was not my style. And then, and then there's playing with people who you're going to get along with. Like, like in Before the Fall, one of the people I'm playing with is one of my oldest friends in this world. She's bloody fantastic, and it's a joy to play with her. It comes from a very similar kind of theater rat background that I do. Yeah. Fun. Alrighty, I've kept you all long enough. Thank you for listening to my ramblings, and look forward to doing another one of these next Thursday, doing God Heist next Friday, potentially seeing y'all for Curse of Strahd on Saturday. Fingers crossed. And if not, definitely the week after. Yeah. This is fun. I like doing this. Alrighty. Goodbye.